Good afternoon and welcome to 10 TV Plus. I'm meteorologist Dylan Robichaud alongside Jay Plyburn.
That's me. Happy to be here.
After what was such a cold week last week, finally we catch a break from the cold. And today, big story, probably the wind.
The 20s and 30s felt like a trip to the beach. So comfortable out there compared to the zero.
Yeah, we had some days last week, wind chills were like negative 20, some areas close to negative 30.
Really nasty.
That's not the case this week. And in fact, as we'll talk about here in a moment, no more cold outbreaks anytime soon, so that is good.
But a little bit of a wind chill factor involved because it is going to be so windy
True.
out there.
Mid-30s today, but when you factor in that wind, it's not going to feel like it, probably the mid-20s. Let's get a look here at that weather impact forecast for today. And again, the big story, tracking a little bit of wind here, up to about 35 miles per hour. And all that means is that any kind of loose items that you might have outside, just kind of tidy them up and put them away so they don't go blowing around. By the way, the wind is not just an issue today, but also heading into tomorrow and then again on Wednesday. So heading into this afternoon, look at this from Bucyrus to Kenton, Urbana, Marysville, looking at winds around 30 miles per hour. And then we have a very tight gradient. You head down to Athens and MacArthur and Jackson. It's not quite as bad down there, but as you head up to the north, these darker colors on the map show where the wind will be strongest today. And even look at that right there, Kenton near 40 miles per hour as we head into this afternoon going into the evening. Here in the metro areas, we look at the wind only around 20 miles per hour. But like I said, it's more like once you get north into Delaware County and then even points further north than there, that's where it will be the worst as we head through today. Now, this afternoon, I think the highest gust that we get around 35 miles per hour. Then as we head towards tomorrow, we head towards Wednesday. Now we're looking at gusts around 30 miles per hour both days. And with some new data that we saw this morning, we have now increased the wind on Wednesday up to about 30 miles per hour. So that's not going to be changing anytime soon. As we head into the afternoon hours today, I think your Monday is probably the sunniest day of the week. 35 degrees will be the afternoon temperature. And as we head towards this evening, we do drop it back down to around freezing, but not bad at all as we head through today. Any snow anytime soon? Yes, but only a small chance of it. And this is very, very early tomorrow morning. Notice that by 6, 7, 8 o'clock, maybe a few passing snow flurries. And then by 8:30 from Mansfield off to Bucyrus, a little bit more snowfall will pass on through the region. By 11:30, that risk is pretty much gone. And then the rest of the day is looking pretty nice as we start to kind of warm things up a bit. We're back into the 40s for tomorrow. We are rain and snow free for the most part. No major storms for the next 4 days. And the reason why is that we've got high pressure right here. We actually have a very active storm track to the north, but that high pressure kind of acts like a barrier, and that's going to prevent any of this snow from making it down to the south. And so Toronto, Quebec, northern New England, they get some storms, but we are going to stay snow free because we've got that high pressure anchored off to our south, and that's not moving at all for the next 4 days. We warm up, though. The jet stream has been like this, allowing this cold air, the blue on the map, to kind of flow into the region. But now we're tapping into that warmer air from the south. And just like a conveyor belt tapping into that mild air from the Gulf of Mexico, we are back into where? The 40s later on this week. So if you're kind of a snowbird, you don't like the cold air, I've got you. You're going to like the weather heading into this week. Average high, 37. Where will we be? 40s, at least for the majority of our days. Look at this. By the weekend, we are well into the 40s. By Friday, we're in the 40s. And then every day, really, with the exception of Monday, we are going to be above average. So that is good if you do not like the cold. As we head into February, which, by the way, it's kind of crazy to think about, February begins this weekend. Look at this, above average for just about the entire eastern seaboard. And then as we head towards February 4th to the 10th, below average as we head off to the west. So the West Coast has been looking at a pretty warm winter so far, but we're going to flip that on a dime, and they're going to be looking at things eventually getting a lot colder out there. Current ice cover, though, across the Great Lakes, this definitely impacts us here in central Ohio. Right now, Lake Erie is 95% covered with ice. How does that impact you? Well, because if the weather pattern allows cold air from Canada to kind of seep down to the south, because the lake is covered with ice, that means that that cold air doesn't modify and warm up as much. So if we do have a chance for a cold outbreak, it would be worse because of that frozen lake. Cleveland will see a much lower risk of lake effect snow because the lakes are frozen. Meanwhile, with Lake Michigan and Lake Superior uncovered, that means that it's fair game that we could be looking at that lake effect snow machine out there. Keep in mind, with temperatures warming up, if there's less than 4 inches of ice on a lake or pond, you want to stay off of that. You need at least 4, preferably 5 inches to go ice fishing, 5 to 6 inches for snowmobiles, and then for trucks, 8 to 12 inches, so on and so forth. Just got to be so careful out there on the ice this time of year. Now, as we get a look at that 7-day forecast, check it out as we head towards the end of the week. Here's our next storm system coming in just in time for Friday. And we are tapping into that rich Gulf of Mexico moisture. The green on the map shows rain. It is all rain and wet on Friday. And then take a look at this right here. A little bit of cold air. Look at the blue on the map. Look at the pink. That's a rain-snow mix. We get that northerly wind. That's going to switch us back over to a rain-snow mix, possibly going into early Saturday morning. And then Sunday looks pretty nice as we're going to be looking at conditions improving. 41 here on Saturday, 44 on Sunday. So unseasonably warm as we head into the next few days. We're going to be tracking a little bit of snow, possibly mixing with rain early on Saturday, and then it will totally switch over to all rain as we head into the afternoon because it's going to be so warm through the later half of Saturday. And I'm not looking at any signals of any extreme cold anytime soon, so that's good if you are more of somebody who doesn't like the cold.
Which I think would include me and a lot of people. So we're not done with winter yet by any stretch of the imagination, but we've rounded the corner from that extreme cold, at least for now, still plenty of cold weather months ahead.
Still, yeah, I mean, sometimes February, March, sometimes as late as April, we can get a cold streak, but
hopefully not sub-zero, though.
Correct. Next 2 weeks, though, we're not really looking at much of that.
We'll see what the groundhog says.
On February 2nd, Punxsutawney Phil.
All eyes on the
We
groundhog.
will have more on that coming up on 10 TV Plus
I'm excited.
later on
Love
this
Groundhog's
week
Day.
because we're going to dive in to see just how accurate Punxsutawney really is.
Well, I'm curious.
All right, time now for weather trivia. Today's question is, what was the coldest temperature Columbus has seen in the month of January?
Warmest, it says. What was the warmest?
Yeah, what was the warmest temperature? 74?
For January? Oh, boy. 74, 64, 54, or 44. I'm thinking 74 would be absurd. 64. I'm going to go 64.
64?
Come on. Really? That is so warm.
That would be January 25th, 1950. Okay, it happened 75 years ago.
Right.
But it has happened before, 74 degrees.
70 was the month as a whole? Do you know? Was it?
That was just
above average?
one particular day. The whole month was well above average, but that one particular day.
Come on, 70s. This January, I'd love to see it.
Yep. And you know what? It's interesting. If we look back in climate data, temperatures are warming faster in winter than in any other season. Take a look at this right here. Winter, the average temperature, and by the way, this is specifically looking at Columbus information. Winter has warmed up over 5 degrees compared to its other counterparts, spring, summer, fall, about 3 degrees. So that means that winter, we've exceptionally seen warmer winters around here, which of course means lower snowfall here. The blue on the map are stations that are also looking at their winters warming. So as we look off to the west coast, we see a lot of the warming happening in summer and fall, but as we look off to the east coast, a lot of the warming has been happening in the months of winter. And some of that has been less snowfall. Less snowfall, you get less of that reflection from the snow. We actually call that albedo, and so that can also help to warm things up as well. Now, as we look more specifically here, town by town, this is specifically in Columbus. We've had 21 fewer nights with temperatures below 32 degrees here from 1970 to 2022. And obviously 32 is that threshold where you start to get snow. And so we've seen a lot less cold here across parts of central Ohio. And with less cold, that means less snow. And our snowfall has been dipping down quite a bit. You really have to go back at least 5 years to get a winter that we've been close to average, but most of the winters going back from 2000 to now have been just about all but a couple below average.
Really interesting. It's all subject to change, I guess.
Yeah, especially if you like snow, then then I guess you got to go a little bit further north to maybe.
This guy loves snow.
I do like snow. Lake Erie, Ashtabula County, they get a lot of it up there.
I like snow until it starts messing up things on the roads. And
It's
then,
not fun to drive in, that's
no,
for sure.
you got to be careful up there.
Well, that does it for us here on 10 TV Plus. I'm Dylan Robichaud. That is Jay Plyburn. Jerry Martz will have your forecast tonight on 10 TV News starting right at 6.
See ya.